322 appearances, 7 Premiership titles, nearly 20 years playing in the Premiership. Some opinions would say that you are the GOAT.
Yeah, it sounds a bit surreal when you say it out loud like that. And
nearly 20 years.
Yeah, I really dig in, didn't I? I really held on.
Nearly half your life.
I was very stubborn towards the end.
Last one was a bit greedy, wasn't it?
Yeah, no. Well, there's a few Saracens boys not so far behind, so I had to nick that one off them. Signed straight out of school for Sale on a huge contract. So we were on £5 a year and a house and accommodation. And it was the best couple of years. You sign with your mates out of school. There's 4 people in a 3-bed house and all the things that entails. So yeah, great memories at the start.
Who were your kind of inspirations growing up? Was it family led in terms of your role models, or was it outside of your family that kind of drove you really?
No, my dad was my biggest role model. So I grew up on a dairy farm, so I saw how hard he worked, and I didn't want to borrow that, to be honest. So I was like, yeah, no, he was the guy that I looked up to in terms of work ethic and what he stood for, and he's been there with me the whole way in terms of loving that journey and being part of it.
It took a little bit of time. There was a certain team called Leicester and another team called Was who were kind of at the top of the Premiership.
Yeah, they were all right then, weren't they?
We had a little run. But you won your first Premiership title with Sale Sharks in 2005-06. What are your recollections of that year and winning your first title with Sale?
Probably just how lucky I was to be in that team and in and around those sorts of players. So I was playing with Jason Robinson, Mark Cueto, Shabal, like these guys, Charlie Hodgson at 10, like it was...
Jason White.
Yeah, Jason White, it was incredible. So it was littered with these great players who I got to play with, and I got to learn and look at what it was all about. And I think it was me and Magnus Lund who were that age playing in that team, who were just like, how good's this? Like, and we didn't have to do anything other than play and keep our head down, not get in too much trouble, and play as well as we can. And everyone's career there's moments of like real good fortune and moments that make a big difference to him. And Cecilio Martin started that semi-final against you boys and ripped his calf. And then I ended up starting the final, and that goes well, and those sorts of things. You can look at your career and go, I did all this, and this was what happened because there's so many little moments of luck and things you need along the way.
Sliding door moments. So you win your first Premiership title. What age were you then?
21.
21. I mean, I've got to be honest with you, it takes a long time to win a Premiership.
Yeah.
You get to do it at 21 as a starting 9 against Leicester. You then have a couple more years at Sale, which takes you up to, I think, 8 years at Sale as a Sale Shark. You then decide that the streets are paved with gold down south, all right? You, along with Charlie Hodgson, I think, and maybe 1 or 2 others, move down to Saracens. Why Saracens?
When I decided to go, I would obviously won that title in 05 and 06, and as you say, I was spoilt. I didn't know how hard it was to do that and what it all entailed. And over the next few years, we found out because we couldn't back it up and we weren't quite good enough. And but I'd had that taste of winning, and I enjoyed it. And I was pretty keen that I was pretty set out from the start that I wanted to eke out everything I could from my career, and I knew that it was very limited. That I was privileged to be in that position, and then an opportunity came up at Saracens, and as you say, they weren't the team that they then became. When I signed for them, they'd won nothing. They got to the final the year I signed, but again, this was in January when I signed for them, and it was the people that made it sort of one of those things that I couldn't not do. And one of the things they did that they invested in was your family. I wasn't allowed to go for a meeting down at Saracens without my wife Lindsay coming with me. Like they were like, I said, I can come down this day, but she's working. No, she can't come until she comes with you. Obviously, I turn up and then they whisk her off and show her all the nice areas to live. They're going to cost me too much and all the rest of it.
Oh, they're really smart.
Yeah, they are. And I got, and I'd been for the meeting, and I got in the car at the end thinking, I'm going to have to do this like sales job on Lindsay and go, like, we're going to have to go down south here. She's 6 months pregnant with the first, and she just got in the car and went, we're going to have to come, aren't we? And I was like, yeah, this feels like the right thing to do.
Didn't take you long to win your second Premiership title. I think that the following year, 2011, with Saracens.
Yeah, I think it was Owen Farrell's first final. He'd come into the team as a 19-year-old, I think, that year, and we were like, "Oh, well, this young kid looks pretty good, doesn't he? This Farrell lad. Let's put him in and back him." And that turned out to be a pretty good decision.
Got the right name anyway.
Yeah,
so.
yeah. We were defending our goal line last minute, and they had a big overlap, but took it through the forwards, and we ended up with a breakdown turnover, and everyone goes mental.
From 2015 to 2019, I would call it the glory years at Saracens, the real kind of purple patch.
Yeah. Yeah, because I think that was born out of the 2011 to 2015 is that we lost a load of semi-finals and finals. Like, there was loads of hurt in that period. Is that we'd finish top of the league, lose a home semi-final, we'd get to European final, lose, get battered by Toulon. Like, there was all these instances along the way that I think we needed to be dominant for a while because we knew how hard it was. We were in a real sweet spot for leadership, and you had this like spine of like guys who they just wouldn't allow a training session to go by without it being of the highest quality. I was only chatting to Owen the other day around how we'd fall out at training many a time. If we weren't on the same team, you'd end up falling out, and then we'd be laughing after the training session about it. It was just how competitive it was and how driven it was. I'm sure we drove the coaches mad with how we were.
You talk about some of those players. When you won your first Premiership title at 21, you were very much the young lad at Sale. When you started to win multiple Premiership titles at Saracens, you saw the development. Well, you talked about Owen Farrell already, but Jamie George, he was a young Jamie George then. Maro Itoje, some of these young players that were coming through who have gone on to establish themselves as superstars of the game. What was your influence and what was your sort of view of their career?
They all just fell into what was going on and added to it. It didn't feel like you needed to be a senior player to those guys because you knew just how good they were, how driven they were, what they've all gone on to achieve in the game sort of speaks for their attitude and what they wanted out of it.
Can you remember your last Premiership title with Saracens as a player?
We were shattered. I remember being under the sticks after they scored in the corner. I think they might have gone 10 points up, and looked around, and we were on our knees, and we just said, let's just go and get the ball back. And Owen said, go and get the ball back, and Liam Williams wins it off the kick-off, and we end up doing something. We score a couple in 5 minutes and turn it like on its head.
You always had that. There's always in great teams. There's always that feeling that one of you will do something that will pull it round and pull it back, and you're not quite sure who it's going to be. Yeah. You did the double-double that year. Did that feel like as good as it gets? A Premiership title that probably means even more because it's with the European title as well.
Yeah, I think so. Those ones that doubled up were definitely because of you'd done Europe first, and then you have to go and either play a semi-final and a final the 2 weeks after when everyone is like you've got to the top, and then you've then got to try and get back up, and those were the bits that the group was incredibly disciplined about doing, because I remember the first one where we were on the beers for 2 days because we'd done it and gone, we have to celebrate this, but we knew we had a semi-final, so you just those that we'd come back from, we knew how to celebrate and then go, right, now it's business again, and we have to get this done because it's going to feel unsatisfactory. And it's amazing because you talk about the double and you remember the times you don't do it. I remember Henry Slade's kick into the corner, which I still talk to him about this day. Whenever he's practicing his kicking, I talk to him about this kick, this 60-yard kick into the corner, because I remember it going over my head and going, no, you don't take it away from us, and they did. When you have both trophies in the changing room and the satisfaction and of what you've been able to do, those are a couple of special ones.
The end of your Saracens career, we're just coming out the end of COVID, and you've been coaching now at quite a high level already. So The easy option may have been just to go, do you know what, let's go straight into coaching now and push the button on that. You still had some sort of burning desire to play. I mean, you must have been 37, weren't you?
Yeah, I had more coaching offers than playing offers at that point, and I was really stubborn in the fact that I thought I had something left in me. Then I got a call from Steve. He said, "Oh, what are you doing?" I said something like, "Oh, you could do the scrum half for when Ben Youngs is away, international duty."
Did you really?
And I said something like that, and I said, "And I want to coach." And he said, "Well, I don't think the two things work together." He literally was like, got off the phone, he said, "I'll ring you back." And he rang me back a couple of days later and said, "Can we meet?" And he came to St Albans, and we sat there, and he put this incredible presentation together with someone else, and they showed me where I'd fit in and what it looked like, and I was just like, "Well, this seems good." And it was a 3-year deal with 1 playing and 2 coaching, and he said, "We'll work out what the coaching looks like." But that COVID season, remember that because they extended the finish of 1 into the next, I played the last game for Saracens, and then 2 weeks later was playing for Leicester, like in the league. So that was a short period. But I think I'd been at Leicester 2 weeks when he said, "Actually, you can look at the kicking game for me. Well, yeah, this playing and coach can maybe work."
I haven't got any more punching.
So we can do that. And I was obviously like a dog with a bone, like, yeah, get me in and do it. So that first season with them, the COVID season, I remember meeting 2-3 of my teammates on the day of the first game, because it was when if you're close to someone, you remember all this isolating. So I met Harry Potter, Jasper Wiese, the day I was playing with them in the change room. It was like going back to under 12s, like shaking their hands. And then we went out and battered Gloucester. It was like one of these great memories. But that season I did kicking game with him, and then I was meant to retire, and I said, "Steve, I still think I've got something." So the first year I wasn't in all coaches' meetings, so I did kicking game. So I would meet with him and the analysts and would do the kicking game, and I present on it, but I wasn't in. And the second year I said I want to play on, but I then signed as the attack coach. So then I was in every coach's meeting in the morning afterwards. So that was the year where I was putting a red top on as a coach, taking warm-ups things, and then in the session whipping it off, and then. So
in the cooking terms, you have your cake and eating it.
I was,
and it comes with its perks, because obviously you go on a run. You've got Ben Youngs, the world's most capped player, playing scrum half for Leicester, and you make it to the Premiership final. And you're playing your old team, Saracens, and Steve Borthwick's, but you get to pick the team, don't you, really? Yeah,
it's funny how, honestly, so selection would be done a long time in advance, but if there was ever an awkward one, I'd just get sent out. So I was never, like, one of the things was that I had to be really protective of the changing room, because if I'm getting changed with these lads, I can't be privy to some stuff. The semi-final the week before, he dropped me from the 23.
I know.
And then I think it was Saracens, it was experience, it was how many of our boys had been in finals before and who hadn't. That game against Saracens was planned probably 3 months before. We were a team that weren't meant to be at the top of the league. Like they'd finished bottom, they'd finished 6th, and we finished 6th, but was closer to the bottom than top that first year. And the second year we went on that run at the start of the season, won 11 on the bounce or something. So we had this buffer of like, we're probably going to be in top 4 here, we're probably going to have a home semi. We knew we were going to have to beat Saracens to win it. Yeah. And that would have been planned by Steve for that amount of time, with the coaches of what we're going to have to, what's the final going to look like, or if we're going to win it, what does that game against them look like? So that had been that long in the planning. I remember being in a car, because I still lived St Albans at this time, so around all my mates at Saracens, and I was going to testimonial dinner with Owen and Mako, and I'm trying to pull stuff out of them, and they're trying to pull stuff out of me. This is probably month and a half before the final, and Owen said to me something like, "Is it fair to say that you're playing a bit less rugby and now that you think you can win it?" Or something like this, trying to get, and I was just like, yeah, I don't know if that's true, Owen. And
brilliant.
And that's probably the one that I've never been as nervous for a game in my life, that one, because Steve had put his neck on the line by picking me. This Saracens team haven't lost a final for years and years. Like, they turned up in finals.
Burns to win it!
That memory will live with me forever because of who I did it against, who we managed to perform on the day against, and all the things that went in it with the coaching them that year. And
But they're still all your mates as well. And to have that on them is beautiful. Talk us through your last ever Premiership game, because there's going to be emotion.
Eddie had left England and Steve was the guy that was talked about as going in, but that didn't happen for maybe like 3 weeks, that he was still Leicester head coach while this was going on, and there was obviously the club were dealing with that, and we were just all trying to crack on with our jobs. But when it became apparent that he was going, there was probably a look around the coaching room of going, well,
who's going to be interim here? Yeah, who's going to fit the job?
What we're going to do, and I was still playing, and so when they asked me to do it, I was like, I said no, because I said, I'm still playing. You can't be head coach when you're playing. Like there is a line somewhere. I had a couple more calls with the club who said, we'd like you to do it. We don't want to offer this out elsewhere yet. Yeah, and I think it had been wrong to get someone external in who didn't know how we did things and stuff. And it was in that coaching team, it probably felt like I was the most senior, the guy to do it. It felt like a massive leap, and I suppose the worry was, if I mess this up like really badly, then what's this look like? So no one knew it was my last game bar Lindsay and my mum and dad.
Right.
So that's why after the game, when I knew Steve was going to announce that he was leaving and Sinfield was leaving as well. Yeah. So they announced then that they were leaving. I'm in the changing rooms crying because I've just played my last game of rugby, but on 24 hours notice, really, and then
crying with joy because you're head coach, or crying with sadness.
I know. And then obviously everyone, I think it was actually I was in the showers still like quiet and stuff, and he's like, "Come on, mate, it'll be all right. Like you'll see him again." Sale's where I grew up, and they give him a chance. It's where I now live. My best friends who I grew up with were there. And at Leicester, I finished with this feeling at a club that I couldn't have been prouder to be associated with, and how they looked after me and how invested I was in them and how hard it was to leave that. But in terms of the best team and where I did the majority of my rugby, and certainly the winning, was Saracens. Those memories at Saracens that, I'll never forget.
Right, Wiggy, we're doing something special here, X Factor style. We've got a photo montage of some of your greatest moments. So, given that you played at Sale Sharks, Saracens and Leicester Tigers, I've sort of looked at it chronologically. So if we start with Sale, this photo here is one that I mean, it's old school selfie. There, Bruno there.
Yeah, maybe that was the first ever selfie. Yeah. Sebastian Bruno.
Well, he must have put the Nokia 310 into retirement, and that one's come out. And I mean, this was obviously your first Premiership title. Look at you, right behind the trophy.
Oh, yeah, got my hands on it. Good mates, Magnus and Steve Hanley and Cueto and Mayer, Dean Schofield, the best man on the beers you'll ever meet, and
Jason White,
yeah, Sebastian Bruno.
Have you got a copy of this?
This is. I've got this photo, so I've got one. I've not big one for shirts being up on medals, but this is the first photo I've got.
Yeah, well then this is not Phil Foden.
No,
but he's another Foden who was in Manchester. Ben
was my housemate at the time.
Was he?
Yeah. So young lad come through. Thought he was a scrum half, even though he couldn't pass off his left hand or kick, but was that talented. You need him on the field, and he came on for me that day, last sort of 15 minutes, and we had a good night out.
Fantastic. Let's go to Saracens. So you joined there in 2010, 2011. I'm just trying to work out. Look by the haircuts.
That one,
is it this one here?
That one and this one, yeah.
Talk me through this. You've got the champagne in your hand. It seems to be a common theme.
No, you'll see all these photos. Yeah, I've got champagne. I'm better at spraying it than drinking it. Well, you were the opposite, I reckon.
Well, I don't know. I was quite good at spraying it as well. But the good news is you had a reason to spray it, which is that you're in another Premiership final. I mean, just talk us through this one in particular, because I tell you, there's some hairstyles. Not that I can comment, but there's some serious hairstyles.
Even Steve spraying the champagne here. That's
how much fun it was.
I know. No, that one was, as we talked about, was a bit of, it meant a lot. We moved there and you managed to get something tangible on the back of your work and your decision to leave the north.
And obviously, you know, listen, you had 5 Premiership titles there. I think this one being, we talked about these 2 in your career, playing alongside, well, former England captain and current England captain.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not bad.
No,
Where did it all go wrong?
I was so fortunate with the guys I got to play alongside. Watched Marrow come through. I remember his first ever training session for Saracens, actually, and while he was young and a bit gangly and stuff, he spoke and he talked and he and immediately thought this guy's got something, which he's obviously proved many times over. And
I'm just looking at this one here, which I think was the last one for Saracens, and this was the double year, wasn't it? Where you just won the European Cup against
Leicester.
Yeah. And then you're playing against Exeter. Look at you, you deserve a sit down after that, don't you?
Yeah, that was. That we were shattered. That one. That was come back from, I think, 10 points down. That was a special memories to get that one. And hell of a team that.
And talk us through one of your iconic captains, Brad Barrett. Here.
Lifting most of the trophies that we won at Saracens, was always at the front of everything that we were doing, and was the barometer for the toughness and the character that we like to think we were about.
In the early days, I couldn't find you because you got yourself tucked in behind the trophy.
You got more experienced of where I was going to end up on the photos.
Now, just to prove that it's not all a bundle of laughs.
Yeah.
I've titled this photo "Smiling on the Inside." Right?
Yeah.
Where was this? I think
we were playing Leicester away in the Champions Cup, and we were going in. I think we were already playing Leicester away, and then I think we had a winger playing centre, and you can see the frown lines of how worried I am going into that game that got proved true, and we didn't play badly and still got it stuck on us.
Still got beaten.
Yeah.
I'm going to bring these 2 down because they're from. You got George Ford and yourself, the 9 and 10, and then obviously. I'm not sure who you're spraying with champagne, but it's a very similar pose.
Yeah, no. So, like Ford, we had a big plan that week to kick off 10. George is arguably the best kicker of a ball in world rugby, and he unfortunately did his Achilles 5 minutes into the game, and Freddie Burns came on famously, didn't he? And he drops the goal at the end, but we altered what we were doing, and.
But you suddenly realised that you're going to have to one play 80 minutes, and two you're going to have to do a lot of kicking.
My left peg was going to have to be well worn, which it was, and then George has come in, he's got his boot on with his Achilles, and he was feeling sorry for himself, so I thought I'd spray him.
Spray him. I'm going to ask you now to combine all 3 of them, because I did the same thing with Martin Johnson, and the players that you played with, not against, the players you played with, and you've got more than one club to choose from.
Yeah.
I'm going to ask you to put together a 15. Yeah. If we start with Loosehead.
Loosehead's probably the one that straight away you're going, I've got Andy Sheridan at the start, and I have Ellis Genge at the end, but in between is Mako. For a period, he was like incredible, like stupidly good at rugby, like in everything he did. Even though he was really well rated, I still think he's probably underrated for how good he was. Like, he could do everything.
So easy.
So Mako's in, even though the other 2.
And by the way, that hooker. I mean, you know.
I know, this is
just two at Saracens, let alone everyone else.
We've got Jamie, who's just got 100 caps for his country, and how good you have to be.
And Brits did things that redefined the role of a hooker, really.
And that was the one, and especially in finals. Gallagher Brits in finals, whether it was starting and then Jamie starting and him coming off the bench towards the end, the stuff that he did. He said
affected the outcome of the game.
Affected the outcome of the game. The first Premiership at Saracens, he was in the backfield and ran around the Leicester team and give a 2-on-1 to score. We don't win the final unless he's playing. So Scala probably just nicks in.
Okay, so and we're not even past the front row yet.
Know,
so tight end. I mean, Vincent Cock is up there.
Vincent and Coley would be the ones that stand out. Coley for his durability and how.
But you're only allowed to pick one.
So I'll go Vincent because again it was the European titles that you that you go with him.
And he dyed his hair enough to think that there's different iterations of Vincent.
Yeah, there is. Yeah, Vincent loved me because I constantly shouted at him. He hated me at first because he was one of the guys who you'd have to make move like all the time, and he ended up from the beginning going, "Why are you shouting at me?" to then going, "Please shout at me."
Yeah,
please shout at me.
Because it's a simple language, really. You're their boss, and
Yeah.
coming from a South African background, he's used to the 9 shouting at him.
Yeah.
So you used to shout the second rows probably for different reasons, but I mean, is it as easy as it to say it's OG and Cruz?
Again, incredibly tough, but it probably is Maro and George for what how athletic they were, and George's smarts in the line-outs and Maro's athleticism. They were pretty lethal.
And back row, I mean, they obviously kept you looking the way you are doing today.
Yeah, always appreciated them.
Yeah.
You go for Jason White at 6,
Yeah.
who was in that final, probably again incredibly underrated.
Tell you what, he hit me a few times.
I was
in
just
the
going to
ribs.
say whacked. Yeah, he did.
His
whack.
tackling was unbelievably
Yeah,
good.
he was. And then I'm going to go for Juan Fernandez Lobby at 7, who came to Sale with his brother, who was again incredible. And if he was a European, I think he'd be regarded as a great because we'd know more about him and we'd have seen more of him. He's coaches Argentina now, so I get to see him the odd time, which is great. But he was insane.
That's a hell of a pack.
Jasper comes close at 8, but I think Billy, where you're 10-0 down and he comes off the back of scrum and just scores when he shouldn't do. So Billy in at 8, and that means you're leaving out Shabal and Visa, which is a decent.
Absolutely. Now, if you're lucky enough to play behind that pack, assuming you're playing at 9.
I can't do that. I drew up at 9.
But now you're a coach.
Yeah.
You've got to pick a 9.
Yeah, again, which is.
And if it's not Ben Youngs, who is it?
It's not Ben Youngs, JVP, Ben Spencer, it'd be Neil the Cock. Again, when I turned up, they were like, "You two are going to share the minutes. Like you play a similar way," and immediately my standards had to go through the roof because of what he did. He was so fit. He was so good defensively. He led well. So I got there and I had to become a better player because he was the guy that you had to compete with and share the game with. So again, probably incredibly underrated, but he was very.
Now, again, probably one of the hardest jobs, but you've passed to all of these players and you probably got to know them as much as they were a member of your family. Who's your greatest ever number 10 that you played with?
If you're leaving out George Ford and Charlie Hodgson, you've done pretty well again with the players that I've played with. Yeah. When I was just flicking through this, I was like, I've been lucky with some of the guys, but I think Owen, because of what we won together, our relationship, how in sync we were.
There's one thing delivering in games, but it's the Owen that is on the pitch in training. Was he demanding the same standards of you and driving your standards in training as much as it was game time as well? Yeah,
we'd be very similar with each other. We could just tell each other the truth, and I think that's all you ever want. It was fairly blunt at times, and there wasn't much skill.
Did he ever throw the ball back at you and just say, I can't do that?
No, he wouldn't do that, but I'd hear it, I'd hear it. But he'd get the same from me. He was that was a special relationship.
Okay, so Owen's at 10. Centre pairing?
Brad Barrett,
12.
Again, just a freak with how often he got the absolute best of himself. It could be away from home on a Friday night in Sale in Newcastle. You travelled up, you get the same as if you got we're playing at Wembley versus Wasps in a game that we're putting on. You got the same.
Captain would Barrett be
captain? I think so. I think he obviously was the mainstay of when he lifted those trophies. So I've got fond memories of being led out by Brad.
Outside centre?
Luke McAllister, who came.
You played with him.
I know.
Wow.
So when I was making the list, it was Luke.
What was his special skill sets?
He is literally. I remember turning up and they just bowed out of the 2007 World Cup in the quarter-final to France, but he was New Zealand's best player, and this was a team that had Dan Carter in and McCaw, and he turned up a few weeks later and insanely good. When he wanted to do it, like he found Manchester. Luke, we got him from New Zealand. He found Manchester.
So it was a bit, you had to. Did he need babysitting?
He was good fun. Yeah. Luke was good fun.
That's all you need to say.
He was really good fun, but all my days he could do everything. Kick. He whacked hard. He was quick. He was strong. He understood the game. Yeah.
So either side, 11 and 14. I mean, if you don't mention the word Chris Ashton, he's going to phone up and be really upset.
Yeah, there's a few lads that, like, we've got good mates who are on the wing, so this will be the one that's going to cause me a bit of pain because I'm good mates with Ashy. I live next door, essentially, to Mark Cueto, so if he doesn't get put in, he's going to be in trouble.
You've got Steve Hanley.
Hanley, David Strettle, they play with, who was awesome. But I think Cueto and Ashton are up there with the top end of.
Well, Chris Ashton is the top Premiership try scorer of all time, and Mark's, Kuwait's is still number 5 or 6, isn't it?
Yeah. So I think if you got those two on the wings, you're scoring a fair amount of tries.
And fullback.
Yeah, I've played with obviously Freddie Stewart at the end when he was coming through and he was killing it, and then I played with Alex Good, who, when you talk about the finals that we won at Saracens, was always played well, wanted the ball in the biggest moments, and I won 8 major trophies with him. Yeah.
And he was European Player of the Year.
And he was European Player of the Year, but I played with Jason Robinson. Now, he looked after me when I came as a young lad at Sale and showed me what it was all about. And he's probably the best player I've ever played with. So Jason has to make the side.
Well, that is quite some team, and listen, well done for picking it. I could tell that you're still a player and still a coach, aren't you? Really? Well, now you're a coach, but it's very, very hard to. I'd hate to have to deliver the bad news to the people who aren't in your all-time.
There'll be people that I've not mentioned in that are like all-time 15
players. They'll see it on the telly and they'll be on the phone.
I know. Yeah.
You are the most decorated Premiership player of all time. We know. And the Premiership knows how to remember you. But how would you like to be remembered yourself as a player?
A couple of things, really. One, that I maximised everything I had in terms of how hard I worked, and that everything I ever did was to try and help the team win. I left the Premiership with the best memories and mates from it that I could have ever dreamt from.
You entered the Premiership history books by winning the title with Sale, and you exited the Premiership history books by winning that title with Leicester Tigers, and you didn't do so bad in between.
Yeah, it was all right. Yeah, very fortunate.
Well, listen, thank you for being our Premiership icon, and it's been great to chat with you.
Top man, thanks a lot.